as sincere and as wonderful and vibrant a faith that I often find among my Protestant friends who I stay in close contact with, the one thing that I found was so distinctive was, and what I've discovered later to be, is this ancient truth that continues to be re-presented to us every day in the Mass, which is the liturgy of the Holy Eucharist. And when I saw for the first time the reverence of these consecrated men, these monks at this monastery celebrate the Mass, I was stunned by how beautiful this was and how ancient it was. I immediately, now I'm still a Baptist and I just started going to a Baptist seminary. I started studying, where did this Mass come from? Because I had been taught that this is just the traditions of men, Matthew chapter 15:5, and that this is sort of invented. But I began to realize as I studied, well, wait a minute, the shape of the Mass, the sequence of the steps in the Mass were described in great detail by St. Justin Martyr in 150 AD. And I was like, wow, this is what the Catholics are doing. This goes back almost 2 centuries. And then I discovered that there's other documents that go back to the 1st century, the Didache, which also refers to the sequence of the Mass, and the Eucharist being the summit of the celebration, the breaking of bread. And some date this work from the church at Antioch at about 90. So we're talking a matter of just a few years after Christ commissioned his apostles to go out and teach all nations. The Mass is it. This is that tradition given, that sacred tradition given to his apostles, given to his church, which has been handed down to us. And as I began to study this, the history of the church, as John Henry Cardinal Newman said, to become deep in history is to cease to be Protestant. And I came home. And in fact, I'll give a plug to this other program called the Coming Home Network. I literally contacted that network, and Jim Anderson, who works with Marcus Grodi, corresponded with me because I was a Baptist seminarian asking questions about the Catholic Church, impressed with the Eucharist, and going, feed me, tell me about this. And we started a correspondence, and he gave me names of Catholic priests to be in touch with and so on. And then the whole thing changed. My mother, God bless her and God rest her soul, I had taken off to trips and so on every fall. And we had decided to go to Rome and to Assisi in Italy. She'd never been to Europe. And this is 2005. So I said, I'll set it up, we'll go. And I'm still a Baptist, but I'm Catholic friendly in my heart and my mind. So we go to Venice, and the churches there are incredible. We go to Assisi, and I went to the lower basilica tomb of St. Francis and everybody loved St. Francis. And there was, I don't know who was all in there, but no one was making a sound. The spirituality was so thick you could cut it with a knife. There was candles, it was dark, it was dim, it was holy, it was magnificent. And the spirituality of St. Francis, the relic, the body is there. Mm-hmm. And I don't understand all this, but it's the grace of this is just seeping into me. We go to Rome, and I managed to get through some Catholic friends of mine, Wednesday audience tickets with the Pope. And so we're 10,000 of Pope Benedict's closest friends out there on the piazza. And we're on the inner aisle, and he runs around the Pope mobile. And as he comes down the center aisle, we're at the closest point, so I have my camera. And so I'm standing, and he's looking the other way, blessing people. And as he gets into my little frame, I start to click the shutter. He turns, and he gives the blessing right at me. I've got it. I've got that photograph. I've made copies of it for many people.
Oh, how magnificent.
But it was amazing. And I'm going, hey, that was nice, you know? And I got this strict impression, and I went to another church by myself later. Mom rested one day, and I went to St. Paul's Beyond the Walls, which is another one of those magnificent basilicas. And I had, for the first time ever, this distinct impression that the ministry that I might be involved with, God willing, would be the priesthood. Well, I put that in my journal, but I'm what's this, right? I mean, I want to follow the Lord. There's this wild thought that comes to my head. I'm in this fantastic church, and the bones of St. Paul are under the main altar in this particular church. And then we'd been, of course, to St. Peter's, and the history of the church is just banging at my heart and mind. And then I saw in St. Peter's a marble wall that listed every bishop of Rome, all 264, I think, if my numbers are right. And I'd always been taught as a Protestant that the Catholic Church kind of got started with Constantine when he made the Roman Empire Catholic. And so there was the Roman Catholic Church, and I presumed that. And then I looked at this list that went from John Paul II all the way back through the centuries, and then I saw, Peter, Linus, Clement, Sixtus, this list from that first century after Peter was martyred in 64 in Nero's circus there in 64 AD. And I went, wow, this is an unbroken line of succession. This didn't start with Constantine, this started with Peter. Just like it says in Matthew chapter 16, you are Peter and you are the rock, and on this I'll build my church, and there it is. So, and literally that church is built on where St. Peter is buried. So I come back to the United States with a lot of stuff to think about, and then dear old mom comes down with cancer, and she's living in Oregon, and so I moved to take care of her. I was a single man, and so I moved back to, it turns out, my old home parish in Hermiston, Oregon, where I was first baptized, Our Lady of Angels Catholic Church. And there was an outgoing priest, interim, and a new one coming in. All three of these guys, who didn't know each other, but I would go to daily mass, and every one of these guys said, Skip, you should be a priest. You should be a priest. You should be a priest.
Listen to that.
So now I'm going, well, okay, I think maybe I need to pay attention to this. I'd stopped going to the Baptist seminary. I was now home in the Catholic Church. I had offered my good confession to my monk friends at the monastery. And so now I inquired of Holy Apostles Seminary in Cromwell, where I am now, where you teach. And I talked to Father Brad Pierce about the possibility of becoming a member of the society and studying. And I told him I'm, 54 years old. He goes, that's great. I said, well, here's my life, the good, the bad, and the ugly. He goes, don't worry, whatever you've done, I'll make you look like a choir boy. And so I thought, okay, there was forgiveness, there was grace, there was this love, and I said, I've got to follow this.
Skip, it's a fantastic story. It happens that this book Last Call was published by Claire and Jim Ridley, who started a company called Good Books Media. And it happened that Jim knew me and knew some old poems I had written years ago about the priesthood. And this one is especially about the Eucharist, so I'm going to end with this. Our priest. Eagerly he emerges from his door, not as a cuckoo clock figure, but as if on urgent personal business, as he is. Intently he speaks to us, not as to the distracted, but as if we long to be reached, as we do. Tenderly he holds up the Eucharist, not as though the bread was only a symbol, but as if it were a body frail and broken, as it was. Carefully his hands enfold the cup, not as though the wine were only a sign, but as if it was the Holy Grail, as it is. Graciously he offers the mystery, not as a sop to the naive, but as pure love, as it is.
Beautiful.
So that's the layperson's view, is how we love our priests, because they're like this poem, and they're like you're going to be. And I want to make a prophecy in the last seconds that I have, which is that someday you'll be on Coming Home telling this story in depth for a whole hour. But in the meantime, stay tuned for this series, and God bless you all.